I'm Allison Miner, and I'll be doing a presentation on social theory and globalization. Globalization has transformed economies, politics, and cultures across the world. To make sense of these changes, we turn to social theory. In this presentation, I'll explore the perspectives of five theories: Immanuel Wallerstein, C. Wright Mills, David Harvey, Pierre Bourdieu, and Max Weber, each of whom offers a unique lens of globalization. Globalization is the growing integration of economics, politics, and cultures worldwide, driven by technology, trade, and financial markets. It allows goods, ideas, and people to move more easily across borders, while it creates opportunities such as trade and cultural exchange. It also deepens inequalities. Wealth concentrates at the top. Labor is exploited, and corporations gain more influence. Institutions like the IMF and WTO shape national policies, while outsourcing and automation transform labor markets. As societies become more connected, cultural identities evolve. Now let's explore how social theories explain these global shifts. Wallerstein world system theory explains the global economic hierarchy, dividing nations into core, semi-periphery, and periphery. Core nations dominate trade, finance, and production, extracting resources and labor from periphery nations. Semi-periphery countries benefit from trade but still rely on core nations. Wallerstein argues that capitalism is designed to benefit wealth nations. His theory builds on dependency theory, showing how debt, trade policies, and economic influence keep poor nations relying on the global elite, reinforcing inequality. Wallerstein's theory explains how globalization benefits core nations while exploiting periphery countries. Multinational corporations outsource production to periphery nations, taking advantage of lower wages and weaker labor rights. This keeps wealth concentrated in the global north, while the global south provides cheap labor and raw materials. Institutions like the IMF and World Bank worsens this inequality by imposing strict loan conditions and austerity measures, keeping periphery nations dependent. A key example is sweatshops in Asia and Africa, where workers face poor conditions and low wages while corporations maximize profits. C. Wright's Mills Power Elite explains how a small, interconnected group dominates global decision making. Political leaders, corporate executives, and military officials form a network that controls policies and economic structures. Power is concentrated at the top, with elites shaping laws and regulations that maintain influence. Though not democratically elected, they control government, businesses, and global institutions. This limits democracy as corporate and military interests often dictate policies that prioritize profits over public needs. In globalization, this elite class influences international politics, trade agreements, and military interventions. Miller's theory applies to globalizations where institutions like the IMF and WTO prioritize multinational corporations and dominate governments, shaping policies that benefit big businesses while harming smaller economies. Corporate lobbying allows business elites to influence trade, tax laws, and labor policies to maximize profits, further concentrating wealth at the top. A key example is the 2008 financial crisis. Banking elites secured massive bailouts while millions lost jobs and homes, showing how global economic policies often protect the elite at the public expense. David Harvey critiques neoliberalism and economic system that prioritizes free markets, privatizations, and deregulation. Governments reduce social welfare roles, shifting power to corporations and financial markets. Privatization moves public resources like healthcare and education into private hands, increasing inequality. Harvey also introduces the concept of spatial fix, where capital moves to areas with cheaper labor, weaker regulations, and higher profit margins. This allows corporations to bypass labor laws and environmental protection, leading to exploitation. While neoliberalism drives economic growth, it also fuels inequality, financial instability, and weaker worker protection. Harvey's theory helps explain how neoliberal globalization contributes to economic crisis and growing wealth inequality. Financial deregulation allows banks and corporations to take risky actions, which can lead to major economic collapse, like the 2008 financial crisis. Another key issue is corporate tax havens. Wealthy individuals and multinational corporations use these loopholes to protect their profits, which deprives governments of tax revenue needed for public services. A clear example is Amazon's global supply chain. It benefits from tax loopholes, low wage labor, and weak regulation to maximize profits. Beyond economic inequality, neoliberal capitalism also fuels environmental destruction. Companies often prioritize profits over sustainability, leading to a long-term damage. Harvey's theory highlights how globalization deepens inequalities, reinforcing the dominance of financial elites while shifting economic risk onto workers and consumers. PPT theory focuses on cultural capital, a form of non-economic power that influences social mobility. He distinguishes between three types of capital: economic capital, which refers to wealth; social capital, which includes network and connection; and cultural capital, which includes education, knowledge, and taste. Cultural capital plays a major role in maintaining social hierarchies. Those with privileged access to elite education and cultural norms gain advantages over others. He argued that the education system reinforces class inequalities by favoring those who already possess cultural capital. This idea extends to cultural hegemony, where Western ideas, education systems, and media influence global knowledge production. As a result, globalization spreads dominant cultural norms worldwide, reinforcing existing power structures. This theory applies to globalization as Western nations shape media, education, and cultural values. A key example is language. English dominates academia, business, and democracy, creating barriers for non-native speakers and limiting opportunities. Top universities set Western academic standards, requiring international students to adapt, which can restrict access to education and jobs. Western media further reinforces inequality by shaping global narratives. Hollywood and major news outlets define what is considered valuable, often overlooking non-Western perspectives and limiting diverse voices in global discussions. Max Weber theory explores how modern society prioritizes efficiency, predictability, and control, often at the expense of traditional values. Bureaucracy plays a key role creating structure, hierarchies, and standardized procedures. While bureaucracies improve efficiency, Weber warned of the iron cage, a system where rigid rules trap individuals, limiting autonomy and creativity. This applies to global institutions like the UN, WTO, and multinational corporations, which operate through strict bureaucratic processes. While they promote stability and cooperation, they also limit flexibility and discourage innovation, often benefiting some nations more than others. This theory remains relevant to globalizations as bureaucratic organizations shape international policies and economies. Institutions like the IMF and World Bank enforces standardized economic policies, often requiring nations to adopt neoliberal reforms for financial aid. These policies prioritize efficiency but frequently ignore local needs and social consequences. Globalization has also expanded technocratic governance, where data-driven and automatic decisions dominate. Governments and corporations now use AI and digital surveillance to monitor population, enforce security, and predict economic trends. Weber's concern about bureaucracy's dehumanizing effects remain valid as global governance grows more centralized and reliant on technology. To analyzing different social theories, I find Wallerstein's world system theory the most comprehensive in explaining globalization. It highlights economic dependencies, political inequalities, and social hierarchies, showing how core nations concentrate wealth at the expense of the periphery. Wallerstein also explains how institutions like the IMF and World Bank maintain these imbalances, keeping periphery nations dependent. Other theories offer valuable insights. Harvard critiques neoliberalism's role in inequality. Mills examines elite control. Weber explores bureaucracy, and Bourdieu analyzes social mobility. Still, Wallerstein's micro-level framework best captures globalization's long-term structural impact.